And so, without further ado, to begin this event, Mayor Sharon Tucker.
Check, am I on? Can you hear me? Yes. Hi, thank you so much for being here. We are coming together to have a conversation about youth violence, and if we could, just violence as a whole in the city of Fort Wayne. I can tell you that we had 190 people plus sign up for today, and so I do want to thank you all for following the rules, the guidelines, the parameters set around being able to have this conversation. It's almost impossible to have a conversation with nearly 200 people like we would in a normal setting, and so we asked for questions to be submitted. There were 100 questions, as Andy indicated, and I have read through all 100 of those questions to be able to answer the questions as truthfully, as earnestly as we can. You all know me. I have always been a person that has dedicated my life to the community, dedicated my work to the community, and tried to be transparent. There are some things that I am not able to tell because it's in the middle of a lawsuit. But as much as we can possibly share with you, we hope to be able to provide that information. I want tonight to be a night where we get an opportunity to hear from you through the questions that were provided, and also get an opportunity to explain to you the role of government, the role of the mayor. Many times I hear people say to me, why isn't she doing something about that? Well, there's legal barriers around what I can and cannot do. And so I want people to know that. Of the 100 questions that we received, 25 of them, give or take, were about, how do you fund that? We need money to work this program. Well, guess what? There's legal barriers around how we can spend tax dollars. But we're thinking on some things, and we're coming up with some plans to be able to answer that question as well, and I'll go into greater detail with that. Lastly, or maybe second to last, there were a lot of people who sent to me the information from Mayor Scott in Baltimore, Maryland, from Mayor Duggins in Detroit, Michigan, and from Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Illinois. And while they are all great individuals, this is not those cities. Fort Wayne is absolutely different than a lot of those cities. And the plans that they put together work great for their communities because of the way their government is structured. Our government is structured in a little bit different way, where we have a mayor's office who I get to set the budget and spend the money, but we have a council who says, yes, I can spend it, or no, I can't spend it. And thankfully, I have a council that is very, very cohesive working with me. We work well together. Many of them are here tonight. I think I saw Councilman Paddock. I think I saw Councilwoman Booker. And I'm told that Councilman Freistraffer is in the room. So I'm appreciative for them being here today. We work well together. I hope by the end of this hour and a half that we are able to answer questions on the role that the mayor carries, the role that the police chief carries, and ways that we can come up with solutions to be able to identify the challenges that we're seeing for our babies. Because let's be honest, if we lose one child, it's one too many. If we lose, thank you. And that loss could be either to the graveyard or to the jail system. So that's way too many. The other thing that I want to clear for you, because one of the questions that we received was, Mayor ended 10-point coalition, Mayor ended Fort Wayne United, and that's caused the problems. Well, you will hear the chief tell you in just a little bit that from year to date, from January to today, crime has actually gone down over 2024. I can say that I am very supportive of the Fort Wayne United program. They do great work. I have guidelines as the mayor. It's not just my job to make sure that I'm protecting the citizens. It's also my job to make sure that I'm protecting the city from lawsuits. And when I came into office, I found things that would put the city into a barrier or into that challenge. I explained those things to the members of Fort Wayne United. I'm not sure why they took the direction that they took to personally attack me, but I'm in the role, so I accept it. But what I can tell you is that never have I ever had a personal interest in making sure that I prove myself forward, and never have I ever had a disparaging word to say about Fort Wayne United. They do great work. And so in this platform, while you are here and we're amongst friends, I wanted to set the record straight with you. They are entitled to their opinion. I am entitled to my opinion, but I hope that we can work together in the future to make sure that our city is moving together forward. And so that is all that I would like to have. And let's start with the first questions, Andy.
Well, I was going to say, maybe we should introduce the other people who are on the stage.
Why don't we do that? I mean, they're
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
They're here. Why don't
work.
we do that?
That'll
Would you
work.
like me to do that?
Yes, that'd be good.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
On my right, I have Chief of Police, Chief Scott Caudill. To my left, I have Roderick Parker, who is a community advocate. He'll give just a brief the work that you do in the community when you first get to talk. And then to my far left, I have Foundation One, who is a staple in the community, has been working in the community for a very long time. And of course, you know, he owns Unity Barbershop. If you have not seen Foundation, then you've not been working in the streets and doing things on the streets. Foundation One. I also want to make special mention that I have some special guests on the front row that at some point in time I will ask them to chime in. Phil Gibson, would you please stand up with Building Kings? Fort Wayne Community Schools is here representing. Please stand. Thank you. Matthew, help me pronounce your last name. Shebolt. Matthew Shebolt with Fort Wayne Community Schools. And then I don't know if you all have had an opportunity to meet those that live southeast Fort Wayne, the new, I get this wrong every time. Deputy Chief Haywood. Please stand, Deputy Chief Haywood. All right, and I see our two council people saying, wave your hands so they can see my, yay! All right, thank you. Sorry, Andy.
That's okay. It's fun when you get to tell your boss that maybe there was something she forgot to do. So that's what happened right there. But let's start with a question, shall we?
Yes.
We had an awful lot of people who asked questions about root cause. What's the root cause of the violence that we've seen? The comments focused on brain science. They focused on socialization. They focused on the breakdown of the family. A whole lot of stuff are possibilities here. But I think it'd be really good if we actually asked everybody up here, what do you see as the root cause? And let's just, to make it easy on us, let's start with the chief and move that way.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we see from the law enforcement side have to do with mental illness, substance abuse, family function, peer pressure, a lack of empathy, and development of skill sets as they mature, and then availability of guns, and really a desensitization of violence, whether that's through movies or video games or social media, things of that nature, or different avenues that we've seen that have contributed to this.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor?
You know, I wish we could accredit it to just one thing, but what we all know is that it is a number of things that play into it. It's lack of opportunity, it's poverty, it's you name it, it's education, it's all the things. It's not just one thing, it's many things. Like a family could have all the tools, they could have everything that they need, and it still can lead to something happening. And I'll give this example. My mom has been a foster parent for 20 plus years. She is still fostering children because she wants to be able to help make a sustainable difference for them. These kids have a different life than many people have ever seen or will ever see, and they're 7 and 8. And when you come from that beginning, when you come from that space, it's hard to expect someone who has had to try to make an adaptive change like that to be able to look and make the same decisions that other people may make. So it's hard to say what the pinpoint issue is, other than there are lots of issues. It's not just one swipe of a brush can design everything. And so for me, I try to just love and see people for who they are, where they are, because I know that it is a multitude of anything that can instantly change a person's life.
Roderick?
I would just mimic the mayor and the chief. It's a multitude of things, and like the mayor just said, it could be just one moment, one instant that can change a person's life forever. So,
Very good.
I would have to
Foundation?
agree with all the three panelists. But one thing to add to that, and they not in this room, we here trying to solve a problem with youth, but the youth not in this room. We have to build a bridge with the youth to get the youth to be able to feel comfortable with talking to you. I had a brother call me last week. He was going to kill somebody. But because he know me, he felt comfortable. And I talked to him, took him on a 2-hour bike ride. We went to Coney Island Hot Dog. He cool, he was having some mental illness. So he's got to build a bridge with young brothers and sisters out here and quit labeling them.
Thank you. Let's start with, back to this end, let's talk about what the role of government is. And Mayor, you've already started to answer this question, so I'll just let you continue moving on this way. What's the role of government in this issue?
So my role in this issue is to advocate for our community. As much as I wish I could, you all, if I knew the next child, if I knew the next person that was going to pull a trigger, I promise you, I would do everything that I could to stop it. I love kids. I don't want to see anything happen to any one of our children. I call them babies. Someone emailed me and said, these aren't babies, these are monsters. And I said, no, they're not. They're babies, right? They're our children. And so if I knew how or who it would be, I promise y'all, just the human in me would speak to that. But as the mayor, I am responsible for the entire city. I'm responsible for the safety of the entire city. And while I don't implement policing, I support the chief of police who implements policing. We are both bound to the Indiana state law. What Indiana says that we must do, that is what we must go ahead and move forward. But I also have a responsibility and a role to advocate. I do a lot of work behind the scenes. When people are hurt, when people are injured, I look for ways to find those individuals that they're connected to and ask, how are they doing? How can I help them? I'll give you an example of a young man that many people don't even know that I'm in conversation with. He was injured at, is anybody familiar with Pike's Pub?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I still text the young man and ask him how he's doing. While all the cameras have been turned off and everybody has gone away, I'm still checking on him to see how he's doing. That's another way that I advocate for our community to make sure that we are safe, and even after all of things are settled, how people are doing behind it. My role as mayor is to make sure that I am putting in place the right people, the right number of police officers,
Absolutely.
the right number of firefighters, so that we have public safety. My human role as mayor is to make sure that I realize every person has a story and needs to be seen and recognized for that story.
Chief, I think it might be interesting for people to understand what the limit is on the number of officers we could have, according to the budget, how many we have, and if you could give some idea about how they are spread out over days and times of the days, I think that'd be very helpful.
Sure, yeah. I'll refer to a note here as far as the number, but we are authorized for 510 officers right now with our academy class that graduated a week ago. We had 28 graduate, so they're out in field training right now for the next 6 months. So every 30 days they're with a different training officer. That puts us at 509. So we're one below our authorized strength. Now we'll have some retirements through the end of the year. We're already screening for our class for next year, but we're at or near where we need to be at. And as far as how we are structured on the department, I'll give you the exact number so I'm going off the top of my head. So in operations, the uniform officers you see day to day, we go in 3 shifts, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. On A shift, which is our day shift, Every day we have to staff a minimum of 32 uniform officers, a lieutenant, and 4 sergeants. A lot of times we're above that, sometimes we're at minimum, sometimes we might go below and we have to do higher backs by contract. So that's the day shift. That doesn't include detectives or specialty units or anybody else. If I throw detectives in there, we have a maximum on day shift of 61 detectives that can be working at any time. That number fluctuates depending on vacation, time off, people, sick leave, things of that nature. On second shift, we're required to have a minimum of 40 patrol officers, a lieutenant, and 4 sergeants. And that's based on calls for service. We do a staffing study basically every year to see what the needs are in discussions with the unions and the best placement of the officers within the 4 quadrants, and our staffing based on us being at or near our 510. And then on second shift, there's 17 detectives that are assigned as well. And then on third shift, we have a minimum of 35 patrol officers, a lieutenant, and 4 sergeants that work at any time. That's the minimum number of officers that we have to have on shift on third shift, so we call that C shift. And then we have our special unit. So we have our gang unit, which has 12 officers. We have our street crimes unit, which is kind of a catch-all unit that specializes in car takeovers, felony shoplifters. They deal with street crimes per se, people are breaking into cars and things of that nature. So at any one time, that's supplemented by the additional officers, not included the command staff. But that gives you an idea of how we're structured within the 4 quadrants of the city. Then there's districts in each quadrant that the officers are assigned to patrol. And that tells you the minimum number of officers that we have at each time, each day, and each shift.
I want to bring up something that came in as a question quite often, curfew. Why not have more, have less, et cetera, et cetera? What is the law right now regarding curfews?
Okay.
Chief?
My answer is going to be more complicated than your question.
You got to make them easy, though, Chief.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually brought the law with me because explaining it off the top of my head, I can simplify it, but it's easier to read most of the law and pare it down so people understand, because there has been some changes in the curfew law over the last 20 years. Back in my time when I was younger, 11 o'clock, midnight, if you were out past curfew, you could be picked up and brought home or sent to ACJC. So it's changed over the years, but I'll read the substantive parts to this. So if you're 15 to 17 in the state of Indiana right now, it's a curfew violation to be in a public place between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. After 11 p.m. on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, or before 5 a.m. Monday through Friday. There's a caveat to this, there's a catch. And it says a law enforcement officer may not detain a child or take a child into custody based on violations of this section unless the law enforcement officer, after making a reasonable determination and considering the facts and surrounding circumstances, reasonably believes the child has violated this section and has no legal defense to the violation. I'm going to explain the defenses here in just a little bit. This is what's been added over time. If they're less than 15, basically if they're out past 11 o'clock and before 5 a.m., they're in violation of curfew, but the same defenses are in place. And so I'll read these. These were added, I want to say 2006, 2008. So there's several justifications that a child can be out past curfew. Some of them make sense, some of them are a little vague. The first one is they can be emancipated. So how, as a police officer, how do we figure that out if they're emancipated? They can be married. If they're accompanied by a child's parent, guardian, or custodian, accompanied by a parent, by an adult that's specified by the child's parent, guardian, or custodian. If they're participating in or going to or returning from lawful employment, a school-sanctioned activity, a religious event, an emergency involving protection of a person or property, an activity involving the exercise of the child's rights protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States and Constitution of the State of Indiana, which is freedom of speech and right to assembly, an activity conducted by a nonprofit or government entity that provides recreation, education, training, or other care under the supervision of one or more adults, or engaged in interstate or international travel located outside of Indiana, meaning they're passing through Indiana and then continuing on to another state. The other addition to this law, and Indianapolis did this in the past month, is that there is a capability for city council, county council, entities to modify the hours of the curfew based on emergency circumstances. So they can move it 2 hours. And Indianapolis just did that a month ago because they had so many problems in their downtown area that they're experimenting with that. Their city county, they have a joint council, passed that. It's very difficult to enforce. The problem with the curfew as it stands, the way that it is written now, is verifying all those defenses, and it takes quite a bit of time. So if I have a group of, say, 5 or 6 kids, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning, can't get a hold of a parent, number one is taking those officers out of service for 1 to 2 hours because they have to write reports, either ACJC or getting a hold of the parents, custodian, some adult, and having them picked up. And then you can imagine if we have bigger groups than that. We do enforce curfew where we can, but it's usually taking the kids back home when we have them. Hopefully that's not an overly complicated answer, but I wanted everybody to understand this.
Can we paint the picture though? And I want to hear from Foundation and from Roderick, because they kind of chuckled when one of the reasons were if they were married, right? Let's be real with each other, right? Here's where the conversation comes in. If children that are together walking down the street are stopped by a police officer and asked, what are they out after curfew? We're going to be upset because we might say that they were profiling, right? We might say that they were targeting our children. And so that's a real reality. And the only way that they can find out if somebody is in violation of the curfew rules is to stop and ask them a question. But why are you stopping asking me a question? So it's like a double-edged sword. Which one do you do? Because we don't want to wrongfully accuse a child of something, because I know when I was growing up and my sister worked till 11 o'clock at the Dairy Queen on Lafayette Street, my mama would say, y'all go down there and walk and make sure she walked back together so she wouldn't be walking by herself. And we would have technically been in violation of the curfew unless they stopped and asked us why we were out. So it is a hard thing to enforce and to implement, especially when you look at the guidelines that they have to work within. I hope that helps. Does that, for whoever submitted that question, just blink twice and let me know okay, now I know who it was. All right.
I'm sorry for the complicated response to that, but I think it merited it because people have to understand it's not as simple as it used to be.
Yeah. So Roderick and Foundation, we've now heard a little bit about what the city can do, especially regarding curfew. Let's talk a little bit about what it is community organizations can do or maybe should be doing. And that can be as an individual or it could be as an organization. Either way, Foundation, you were looking at me, so you get to go first. Roderick, you're going second.
It's only a couple organizations that I know in our community that's doing excellent work and have been doing excellent work. That's the Boys and Girls Club and these brothers right here. Y'all brothers, Kings, men, stand up. Y'all brothers, stand up. These brothers right here. These brothers right here. I went to their first meeting. I cried because I seen the compassion that they had. And I seen all 40 to 50 young brothers in this circle putting their hand on their heart and they talking from their heart and they dealing with their anger. So they doing, I ain't even doing that work no more. I'm like retired, but y'all, I appreciate that. Y'all doing a good job out there. And the Boys and Girls Club. We went over to the basketball, Friday night, 9 to 12. That was excellent. 120 kids there. Normally would probably be out here in the streets, running around, doing whatever, but then they had Courageous Healing come over and talk to them about trauma. A lot of these kids that's in these shooting situations, they don't know anything about being traumatized till their feelings and their emotions and their character start to change. So we got to deal more with the community that's working with youth in mental illness like Boeing Center, Park Center. It's a lot of organizations that's trying to help. So we just got to work together.
I think And just to piggyback off of what Foundation said, like these organizations that are actually doing the boots on the ground work with the young people, I think the key component is for me, meeting these young people where they are. A lot of times we meet these kids and hey, you need to do this and you better do that and I did this so you can't do that. And we got to start trying to understand, like you said earlier, build a bridge. We got to figure out how to communicate with them in their language and just listen to what they're telling us. A lot of them, they want to talk. A lot of them want to share with you. A lot of them want you to listen to them. So,
in a moment, we're going to talk more about partnerships in just a second, but I want to bring up something that a number of people said. They said that this problem, quote, begins at home, starts at home.
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It starts at home.
And so the question then is, do we think about holding those parents accountable? Because that was a comment that came through, and other people said no, so let's throw it open.
I think that's one of them things where the situation is going to have to be measured. Yeah. I think there are absolutely some times and some moments where some mamas and some daddies should go to jail right along with their child. But I also believe that we have to be more involved in what's going on in these households. And what I mean when I say that is, and I'm going to go back to what you talked about earlier, the 10-point coalition. I have nothing negative to say about the organization and the premise. What I will say is this. It has to be more involved. You got to start knocking on these doors and introducing yourself to these families and sitting on the porch with these people and getting a chance to understand who they are. Or you're ineffective.
Well, you know, I wouldn't say that, you gotta, like for me, everyone has a role, right? Yeah. Everyone has a role, and the role of how different organizations are designed is the way that their organization is designed, and that was not the design of 10-Point Coalition, and I don't want to make it just about them because they're doing their work, but they were designed to walk the Oxford Street block and to be a comforting voice in the community. And that's what they've been doing. Their design is not to knock on doors and go into the space. And that's why I had you all on this stage, because you do a different kind of work. You do a different kind of work. And so I don't want to discredit anybody's work or give different credence to someone's work, because they all matter. And that's the thing that we have to understand. Collectively, we are able to produce change. Individually, all we are doing is constantly fighting each other. And we're spending so much time fighting each other that we're not getting work done. And let me tell you, kids are watching us. Kids are watching us as adults not be able to get along. So how in the world are we to ask them to get along when we're struggling getting along with each other? But Andy, to your question, because I know we have 100 of them that we got to do in Foundation.
Yeah, repeat the question.
Should we be holding family members accountable, parents, grandparents, for the actions of youth?
I agree with what Roger said. If the parent know what their children doing and they helping them, yes. But a lot of times, a parent don't know what a child doing. My mother will tell you, when I was out here doing what I was doing, she never knew that until she got a call from the police officer or the judge. She never knew. So that goes back into, like, it's a scripture in the Bible, honor your mother and your father and all your days to be long and full of blessings. That's the first commandment that comes with a promise. But right under there's a scripture that says, fathers, do not anger your children, but bring them up with the instructions from God. And I think we losing so many of our children because the children are mad at the parents, and they'll come out here in the streets and join a gang, which will be their family. And so we got to just, as parents, we got to learn how to work out the things that's in our community and in our family, else we're going to keep on losing our young kids, man.
I want to change one of the questions just a little bit. We had questions about what sort of resources do families need, do the community need to address this issue. But I want to ask it this way. We do not have unlimited resources. So if you got to list a couple of resources What do you think it is? Everybody gets a couple of these. I'll start down with foundation.
Well, I'm also a full-time case manager with Clear Vita, and I deal with youth and parents. I think mental illness, and mental illness it's not a bad word. If you look at the definition, it's like anything that disturbs you mentally is a form of mental illness, anything that takes your peace. And so when you in that realm, I've learned, man, don't be afraid to ask for help. Just ask for help. And if you can ask for help real quick, you can get that. Every time I need help, I ask for help. The problem gets solved quicker. So just learning how to ask for help.
Roderick?
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna have to mimic my brother. I'm gonna have to say with him, that it's the mental health issues. The mental health issues are, for me, the most dominant cause of a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. Whenever you look at it, it's got to be something wrong in your head a little bit to shoot a gun that'll shoot somebody 60 times. You know what I mean? So there has to be something in the thought process.
Mayor?
So I get to see the budget. And I know the numbers and I know the restrictions that are around the numbers. And we had talked, I had mentioned just briefly earlier that we had about 25 questions roughly that had to do with how can you fund my program? How do we get money? What do we do? Honestly, you all, there's no line item in our budget that says anything about programming or youth violence or violence at all for that matter outside of funding the Fort Wayne Police. Tax dollars have restrictions around them based on the Indiana Code on what we can and cannot do. I had heard before that people had said, well, Mayor, why don't you bring back the seated program? How many remember the seated program?
Work with them.
Who all emailed me and said, Mayor, bring back the seated? Okay. So they said, Mayor, bring back the seated program. Well, I can tell you why we can't do that. The seated dollars were funded from Carter Clinton time from the federal government. That money came from the federal government, and that money doesn't exist any longer from the federal government to be able to fund those programs. But I have a solution and a suggestion. You have to write it down. We, for years, have been announcing that we need part-time help in the summer at our Parks Department. And in the Parks Department, you can be 15 years old and work. You can be a lifeguard, you can be a camp attendant, you can be in one of the summer programs that are there. They're always looking for people. I think we hire some 500 people in the summer to run the Parks Department and Parks Department programs. Don't quote me on the numbers, but they hire a lot of them in the time. And they start at age 15. And then guess where else you can work in the summer to be able to help, even though we don't have the seated program, is at our Tin Caps Stadium, which is actually Parkview Field Stadium. They are always hiring for summer help. And they start at age 16 or 17 that you can be there for employment. And so while the city may not have the resources to do it, there are other people who've come along beside us that have created the opportunities for those opportunities for young people to get employment. We do run the Fort Wayne Parks, so that's a place. And then the Tin Cap Stadium is the other place that I would say that we could do it. You all, if I told you how many people, I had Mayor's Night In today. I do that one Wednesday a month. I have Mayor's Night In. You can schedule to come in. You can spend 20 minutes talking to me about whatever you want. You can yell at me all day if you want to do that, or you can just look at each other. It doesn't matter. You get your 20 minutes to do what you want to do. And out of the 5 people that I spent time with today, 3 of them asked for funding for a program, right? And so we get that often. And we wish that we could, because all the programs are really great programs. We just don't have the tax resources to fund every program, including programs that would give young people an opportunity to not be on the street. But let's be honest as well, right? We're talking transparency. Most jobs for young people gonna end at 11 o'clock. And young people like we used to be when we was older, when they say it's last call, we ain't ready to go home. We ready ready to keep the party going. And so young people the same way. Let's not pretend that, right? They're the same way. They want to keep having fun as well. So we need other outlets for them to do that. But the city can't control those outlets. Those outlets are controlled by either non-for-profit partners, as we've seen with the basketball games, or either developers who want to create that space and charge people to come in to do that. The city doesn't run businesses in that way. And so I appreciate that everyone's given me the suggestions on what would fix it in terms of seated, but I'm limited again to the dollars that we have within the tax budget.
In the interest of trying to move, Roderick, something to add?
I
Yeah.
just was gonna say, but also, going back to the question about the community, this is where the community can come in and we can all come together and start putting dollars to the side as a community to help fund some of these programs as well.
Yeah, that's a good place to get to the next question.
Andy,
in the
can I
interest of
jump
trying to
in real
get
quick?
through, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just going to add to it real quick. So I echo Foundation and Rod on the mental health aspect and also substance abuse. I mean, we see that. There's nobody in this room, I guarantee you, and I coached youth sports for a number of years, baseball and football, that has not been touched by an OD. I guarantee it. I had 2 kids that, over the years, that became great young adults that both OD'd on fentanyl accidentally. Anything that we can do to collaborate with the community from the PD, I'm not talking about enforcement side, that we were involved with PAL, with youth sports, foreign community schools, our SROs. We have great partnerships with different entities in this community, but anything we can do to strengthen resources for the kids for mental health concerns and issues and substance abuse, I'm all for and supporting from the PD.
I will attempt to make my answer shorter, Andy, so we can get through as many questions as we can.
Earlier, we brought up partnerships and need for that. A lot of organizations were mentioned in the questions that were sent to us. Some are organizations people are familiar with, some are newer organizations. And so I have 2 questions. I'm going to ask 2 questions at the same time, answer whichever one you want to. First of all, do we actually have enough groups? Do we have too many, maybe, or not enough? That's one question. And then number 2, are there some groups that need to stay at arm's length from government? In other words, they shouldn't be tied up with the government. They need to be doing work that actually puts them in a position to be critical of the government. Roderick, with that much shaking of your head, I got to say you're going first on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to say absolutely, and not so much to be critical of the government, but because some of the actions needed to get to the root of the problem are things that the government may agree with, but they can't publicly promote. And so there definitely has to be organizations that stay kind of disconnected from the government, city government.
Foundation?
Oh, hold on, let me just show you this. These over 300 letters from brothers in prison. If we don't deal with the issue right now, in 40 years, we'll be still having the same meeting. So if anybody that has compassion in their heart to help, because I don't want to see no mother lose her son no more. I done cut over 220 young brothers here at the funeral homes, and she never returns back to that. We all have to collectively work together, money or no money, because I've never been paid for the work I've done in my community. Never. I just do it because it's the right thing to do. I've never. And so either you really sincere or you trying to get paid. So I've been sincere. So it's time to get sincere because too many mothers losing their son. I don't know if you ever lost a son out here. It's a different feeling.
Yes, I've lost a son.
Yeah.
Mayor?
So.
I understand that there are some entities that would have greater success if they were not tied to the city or the police, because I recognize that there is still a great level of distrust in government and in policing. And so if you need to work isolated from the city, then I support that. And if you need to talk to me privately for input, instructions, or questions, I support that as well. I think that we can all work well, but I also am a realist, and I know that a lot of people are still questioning whether or not they should be able to trust us.
Chief, for you, obviously, you run into a lot of groups, or you're involved in a lot of groups. Remember the two questions. First one was, do we have enough groups or too many groups? And then the second one was, do we need that arm's length relationship with some of those organizations? If you want to answer the second one, how do you make sure you can still work with those groups that you want to make sure that get to keep that distance from the government?
So Roderick and I just had this discussion, what, a week ago, 2 weeks
Yes, sir.
ago? It's really about finding balance and where they're at, where we're at, and what we can offer and not offer. And if there's bridges that we can build, but stay separate, because there's things that sometimes it's better for us not to be involved, where the community leaders can handle things. And sometimes the kids will talk to us, sometimes they won't. I mean, specifically talking about the youth, we understand that. There's some officers that they're more inclined to talk to you than other ones. And then sometimes it's the family members that have talked to us and different things. So it's really about finding those balance within those entities and where the comfort zone is, and seeing what's effective and what's not. So it's always in a state of flux, and we're always willing to work with any group that can show that it's evidence-based and it's effective, if that makes sense.
Mayor, you are the mayor. You're the one in charge right now, and so you've made it very clear there's not a big old pot of money that's available.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the city certainly should be able to do something to help build and nurture organizations in the community. What sort of things, what could you do to help that out?
Spotlight, spot.
Well, you know, we have limited money on what we can do, but I can tell you we don't have limited ideas. And so one of the things that we have been in conversation with and we are working on is we are designing, like I've designed for the opioid program, we designed a committee to be able to get those funds out into the community. We have done a committee for mental health to be able to see what the role of the government, the city could be to help mental health. And now we're working on a program for youth violence and violence as a whole. And we are researching ways. There are a couple of avenues. I will make an announcement on it soon. I don't want to share. That we are researching ways to be able to provide grants to people who are boots on the ground and doing the work. And so we will be able to share a little bit more of that information once we get it fully flushed out. But I can tell you this, when I became mayor, I said that I wanted to create a youth council for young adults. Did it. I said I wanted to be able to make a commission for mental health. Did it. I said I wanted to be able to create a opioid committee. We've done that. We said that we wanted to bring forward a youth sports academy to make Fort Wayne a destination for youth sports, working on it. And I just said to you that I'm looking at how we can address youth violence through a committee. I think if I've shown my track record, that I've done the things that I said I'm going to do, if I tell you that I'm going to work on it and that I'm going to do it, you should know that that's what I'm going to do. And if I am unable to complete that task, I'll come and tell you. I'll come and tell you. That's just how I operate. And so as we're working on making sure that we don't leave this conversation with no solutions and with no goals, that's what I'm working on. But again, I will say, our resources are limited. People want us to invest into our city, into our public safety, into our streets and things. So I also need you all to be a part of the solution and the conversation as well.
So I'm about to defend my mayor real quick, because she ain't just my mayor, she's my friend.
What are you gonna say?
Hold on, let me talk. I got you. Didn't I tell you I got you? Well, because when I read the comments after she made the announcement about this forum, and I read a bunch of the comments, and one of my biggest fears about even being here tonight was the fact that we were gonna get here and people were gonna be bashing my mayor, and we weren't gonna let that happen.
No.
I feel like Sharon came into this position. She came into a government that was already established, So she has to let that work through and then implement her. So what we have to do as a community is we have to stay supportive of her and make sure that we get her reelected when it's time and give her a chance to
We'll
work.
talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Okay,
Next
now,
question.
now I'm going to ask for some data, which will bring us back down to reality. Chief, what is the average response time when someone calls 911?
So it depends on what the call is. So I'll break it down a little bit. It's different from fire because fire is very easy to find their response times because they're leaving from one point, fixed station, going to wherever their call is. Since we're all over the place at any given time, and our calls are broken down in priority. So priority 1 is the most urgent. So shooting, stabbing, bad car wreck, things of that nature, to priority 5, which would be like a barking dog or loud music. So depending on how many calls for service we have at a particular time, affects our response time. But in general terms, and I just went through this today, our priority 1 calls, we're getting there in about 2 minutes, 20 seconds. That's for all priority 1 calls.
Okay.
And then it drops down from there depending on what calls we are. So it's a little bit more complicated, the answer is to that, but the number 1 calls for service that we have, the highest priority calls, we're getting in there within a couple minutes.
Okay, so that's the
Loves,
first thing.
can I ask you to put your phones on mute if you are in the room? Will you at least just turn the ringer off for me? I know you might have to get a call or something needs to come through, but if you'll turn the ringer off for me, I'd appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
We know how you're getting there pretty quickly. There were a number of comments that came in that said the police are not getting someplace fast enough. There should be more police. We should see more police. And in the end, when we start talking about that, a lot of people then ask, what's the balance here we want between freedom and that safety that we can get? We have real data here of how quickly those priority 1 calls are coming through. I'm curious, how much of do you want to see that many people around? Do you want to see that many police around or not? That's basically the question here. Roderick, we'll start with you.
Absolutely. Specifically with this violent situation. I think that I miss the days of sitting on my porch and knowing that there was a policeman riding through, going up Oxford Street. So if something happened, you know, we got some situations that can be dealt with. I actually, in the last few weeks, I sit on my parents' porch quite often. I live right in South Central Fort Wayne, Smith and Oxford Street. And I sat there for 2 weekends in a row from probably 10 a.m. till maybe 10 at night and counted the number of patrol cars I seen in that area. And I think we counted, on the first night, it was like 6. And then the next night, it was a little lower than that. But just knowing that you have a safe, everybody where I come from on the southeast side of Fort Wayne dislike the police until they need the police. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got something bad to say about the police till they need the police to be there. And so I just say that we just need to we have to understand that these people got a job to do. It's a job. This is how they pay their bills, how they feed their kids. Just like you go to work, you want to be respected at your job. We got to start respecting these officers at their job, period.
Foundation?
That's probably a tough one. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because I don't know. I try to conduct myself in a way that I police myself. So I don't need no police telling me how to police myself. But do we need police? Yeah, we do. Do we need more police? I don't know. I can't say.
Chief, do you have any idea how Fort Wayne compares per capita with other communities our size? Do we have about the same number of police officers or not? It's a little unfair to ask you that off the top of your head.
Yeah, so it's situational depending on what area of the country it is, what the climate is, and so forth. So obviously, southern states with warmer temperatures year-round tend to be busier and have more officers. Toledo is similar in size and scope, talking about the Midwest. So 90 minutes away from us, they've got 140 more officers or so. I'm ballparking that. Their crime's a little bit different because they're closer to some bigger cities, but we are in between Chicago, Detroit, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Columbus, so we're at crossroads. We're probably a little bit lower where we need to be, but we're higher than a lot of agencies similar in size and scope around the country, to simplify it that way.
Roderick, you said we need to understand the job of police. We want to make sure that they're respected for what they do. There really are two different perspectives, though, when an event happens. The police show up with one thing to do. Those of us who are there have a different way of seeing that thing. I'm going to ask the chief first, and then I'm going to move down the row. What is your role when you pull up on an event, let's even say it's a priority one call, what's a police officer supposed to do? What's the first thing they're supposed to do?
So the first thing we do is ensure that it's safe. You know, we have to ensure the safety of everyone on the scene, including public safety that's there, whether it's fire, police, medics, the public, any victims. We have to secure any suspects. And then lastly, we got to secure that scene for the investigation and process evidence and so forth. So it's kind of in two parts, but the number one priority is everyone's safety once we get there. Get it shut down, get it contained, not allow other people to come into it, and then protect the people that are in that scene or get them aid if they're injured. And then again, protect the public safety that's on the scene.
And when you get there, you don't know who the good guys are or the bad guys, so for you, it's make everybody safe as best you can.
Yeah, in general terms, unless we got a really good description or a lot of calls or so forth, but yeah, we don't necessarily know who's involved in it, who's not when we first get there.
Roderick, let's move down to you. How do you see that duality of who shows up and who's at an event like that?
So a few weeks ago, I got a call, 11:45, maybe 10 minutes to 12, about the shooting in Tillman Park. Instantly jumped in my car. It was probably about a 10-minute drive from where I live to get to the park. Instantly, when I pull up, I see probably 60, 80 kids in the parking lot at the gas station right there. I seen an officer walking through, trying to talk to individuals to get information. And what the constant for me is, these kids are, and I ain't gonna say they've been taught, but they are just bashing the police. Get the F away from me. I ain't gotta talk to you. Go do your job, go do your job. So, and I'm trying to put myself now in this officer's shoes. If I approach this scene and I'm trying to get information and there's a dead body laying maybe 100 yards away from me, and there's a wounded man that just left in the ambulance, and I'm trying to figure out how, as an officer, I would deal with this. And instantly, I find myself getting angry. I'm a citizen. I'm a person who's been arrested by the police. I'm a person who has dealt with the DOC and the judicial system. And at that moment, if I'm that officer, I'm angry. Why? Because all I'm trying to do is my job, like I said earlier.
But at that moment, if you were the kid, how were you feeling? You've been in that seat, so
Yeah,
how did you feel at that moment?
And that was another perspective that I was looking at, like, how do I feel, like you said, if I'm this kid? I'm scared, but my friend is dead, a person that I know is dead, or basically just a human being is dead, and I was in the vicinity when this happened. So in my mind, I want to see this get dealt with in the proper manner, whatever the case may be. So I'm not gonna be combative towards the police if the police trying to figure out who just killed my friend.
I don't know if that would be my testimony. I think if I was in that situation as a young person, I would be irate, I would be upset, I would be crying.
But are you mad at the police?
I'm mad at the world at that moment. I'm mad at the world. I'm being real.
Yeah, and
I mean, maybe
you.
I'm wrong, but I'm
feel
just
you.
being real. This
I
is
feel
what
you. But
have to stop pretending like and I'm not saying you are. Well, maybe I am. We have to stop pretending like our kids don't have feelings and that they aren't confused and that they aren't.
but I don't want to pretend that these kids don't have feelings. What I do want to pretend is, I want to pretend that if we're gonna figure out what just happened and keep it from happening again, then we gotta let the process take its course.
Well, I ain't here to beat you up. I'm here to answer the questions.
Yeah, yeah, and so, yeah, but I just feel like a lot of times, and I've watched it over and over again, Mayor Tucker, over and over again, when there's always been hostility and anger and frustration in a time where people have jobs to do.
Foundation?
If I was a police officer today, the The advice I would give a police officer or myself is and I give myself this every day, just be patient. You know, be patient, and I know we emotional, but just be patient, because sometimes when you angry or frustrated, you can see things that are actually not there. That's just when you approach any scene, be patient. I've been pulled over a lot, and and always be calm and patient. The police officer here let me go. And I'd have been wrong, and they still let me go because I was respectful of him doing his job. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been running that stop sign. I should have had my seatbelt on. You know, but just be patient. You know, and that's just for everybody.
Officer Haywood, would you chime in on that one? You got to stand up to the
There's a
mic.
mic right there.
You know, I've been a police officer for 31 years.
You got to talk in the mic, Officer.
I've been a police officer for 31 years. And I am the deputy chief now. And so what I tell my younger officers that work for me is that you kind of have to have thick skin. It's not personal. I know the situation I just wrote up on, what I'm dealing with, and you have to understand that you can't take it personal when somebody's lashing out at you because of the moment, of the situation, of the incident. Right. But we are all human too. Yeah. And it's harder for some people than others. I heard somebody say it's about training. We train. We really do train, to the point where someone was like, I don't want to go to training anymore. But we are all human. You just have to understand that you can't take it personal. And sometimes that's hard, because when you, like what Mr. Parker said, when you're there pulling up to help the situation, and then you're getting attacked, it makes it difficult to keep that composure and to do what you're supposed to do.
And that happens more often than not.
Thank you.
I've watched
Thank
it. Watched it over and over again. And that's the reason that I addressed it. A lot of times we as a community make excuses for our behaviors that are completely unacceptable. And I have watched people completely be disrespectful to the police when it wasn't necessary. It was just not necessary. So let's address that.
This question is actually for either police officer here, either chief, I should say. Let's talk about how much training there actually is. Clearly, there's the academy, but once you're in, training doesn't stop. You keep going for more and more and more. Right. What sort of topics are covered, and how often do you have to go to training, either person, either chief?
We have mandated, there's state mandates for minimum training for every police officer every year, recertification training and so forth. And then we far and exceed that here in Fort Wayne with our own police academy. So we have 3 in-services a year where we're putting all 500 plus officers through training, which is related to every topic you can imagine. We're mandated by the state that we have to do defensive tactics, firearms training, first aid training, mental health training. There's several core topics that every police officer has to do, but then we go above and beyond that. Right now, we're getting ready to do our emergency vehicle operations, our EVOC training as we call it. So driving through the courses and so forth, we do that a couple times a year. We have a fall-in service coming up that will have various topics in it. We'll deal with mental health, we'll deal with first aid, and then some of it will be tactics for law enforcement. It varies, but we have 3 trainings a year that are mandatory for every officer in our department, including myself. I have to meet the same standards. I have to qualify, I've got to meet all the testing, I have to do everything that a patrolman does if he just graduated last week. And so, I'm sorry? Is it effective? Yes. How do you know? By our results. And it's evidence-based by other departments that we deal with around the country. And our training, I'm sorry, somebody might have said something. So,
That's it.
yeah.
Mayor, do you have something you want to add there? Sir? Okay. There were a lot of people who said, hey, let's start talking about solutions. We've talked a little bit about understanding the root causes, understanding the need for partnerships, some of the things that can be done to build those partnerships, but also the limitations that we have for that. Let's start talking now a little more about what we could do, solutions. And there were 2 questions that are interesting to me from a research standpoint. Number one is, do we have the data that lets us know that things are happening or what things are happening? Do we need to change the data that we're already gathering? That's one question that I think is worth talking about. And then another one is, should we be thinking short-term or long-term or mid-term in terms of what we should do to address issues? Foundation, how do you see this? What you do is very personal, and so the data is different than I might want to see in a spreadsheet someplace.
I think we should deal with this long term, because if you look at what's going on while we sit here, there's a jail right here getting built, $400 million. All our little young brothers who doing these crimes, they're gonna go there. Then there's another jail being built right now in Westville, $1.2 billion. They get ready to close Michigan City Prison down, which been there since 1860. Get ready to close Westville down, been there since 1950s. And they're gonna have one big prison. Who you think they want in that prison? It's not gonna be, it's gonna be us. So by us just asking that question, that really is self-explanatory, because I'm tired of, I want to see our brothers working down here at the library, building this, like building a prison, not going to prison. So we got to look at long term right now, because it's going to hit us.
Go with Mayor?
Sure, I don't think we can do just one term. I think we have to have a plan for the immediate now, which is a term. We see that right now, where we see that instantly people came in and said, which is one of the questions that was asked a lot, how can I help? But instantly people came in and created City Life and Boys and Girls Club, opened up their gym for kids to be able to come in. Nigel in the room, Joe Jordan is in the room. They opened up their facility for kids to be able to come in right away on a Friday night. I believe Fort Wayne United started their basketball program again for young people, not just boys, girls as well, to be able to come into the room and have basketball if they want to do that sport. But that's just one. That's for people who are interested in basketball. There are other things that we need to be able to provide for outlets for our kids. I was a show choir girl, so I went to the basketball games, right? So we have to be able to, right now, think about those opportunities for our young people while we're planning for a short-term solution, which is kind of what we're doing in the city government right now, pulling together a committee, looking at opportunities, looking at funding opportunities to be able to do, so that we can then get to, at the same time, the long-term plan of which Foundation laid out to you. How do we stop? How do we get to the young kids when they're in the elementary school system or in the middle school system, so that we can prevent them from getting to the place where we're sitting in this room having a conversation about youth violence? It's all plans.
Roderick?
I second Mayor Tucker. It's just one of those things where we got to look at all terms. The immediate, of course, because we're at 22 homicides this year, with 17 of them being juvenile related. And so we have an instant problem, something that has to be dealt with today. But I definitely think that we got to take some of the considerations and find ways to approach the situation from the same aspect that Foundation spoke on. This jail hosts 714, I believe. This next jail is going to double that.
1,500.
1,500, and
Westville,
per tradition, it's going to be filled up with people that look like me, young men and women that look like us, and so we have to find ways to approach these young people and work on changing their thought process immediately.
I'd like for Phil Gibson, head of Building Kings, to come to the mic and speak to this as well, because they've been doing boots on the ground work with nobody knowing that they've been boots on the ground work. I'm exposing them right now, and I'm sorry for that, because they like being under the radar. This is one of the groups that likes being under the radar, because they're here to do the work. They're not here to be seen on the camera. But as a instant and short and long term, tell about your program.
Okay. So I'm Phil Gibson. Some of the other mentors are here. Reed, you can stand up here with me. Reed and Brandon actually started this program a couple years ago. And he started getting overwhelmed by the amount of kids that needed help. And so he reached out to us, to each mentor that's here, and asked us to come and help. And it was easy for us. So what we do is we meet with these kids every week, and we talk to them. And some of these kids are the kids that are on the extreme, that's coming out of ACJC. Some of these kids are the kids who are straight A students who in some cases don't have a father figure or a male figure around them. We don't come in trying to be their parent. We just come in trying to be an extension of the family. So what we do is we not only reach the kid and talk to the kid, and most importantly, listen to the kid, we also talk to the parent. The mother, most of the times, and the father, if we can, get a hold of the father or if the father is around, to try to build that bond back. So it's a couple things that I got to address first before I go. I'm not going to take long, I
I
promise.
told you only.
Okay. I'm not going to take long. So you guys are talking about what happens when you're on the scene and these kids are out there, and in some cases, yeah, the kids do be being disrespectful. But we have to understand it's because these kids are programmed by society not to say anything to the police. So they have to project that towards the police because, out of fear of what will happen when the police are gone, and people be like, oh, you was talking to the police, you a snitch. So there's a lot of pressure on these kids from a lot of angles that we don't take into consideration. So then there's two words that I want to push out to you that we focus on. So we as men, all of us, all of the mentors that work together at Building Kings, we deal with each other too. We hold each other accountable. We don't just hold the kids accountable, we hold each other accountable. You know, and two words that I'm gonna bring out to you. The first one is trust. That is what we build with these kids. That is why these kids talk to us. That is why they gave us lists of things that they think will help them. And not just us coming up with ideas, they gave it. There are instances, and not to put Reed on the spot, but this man owns his own mechanic shop. He works a third shift job and does not miss a phone call from a parent or a mentee. He does not. And when he can't make it there, he puts in a group text that we get every day, and somebody out of that group text is going to go or reach out to the parent to be that extension. And a lot of time it's just listening. That's all we got to do is listen. We don't really have to do anything. We just listen.
All
And
right,
that
Phil,
helps.
I'm gonna have to cut you off. We got a limited amount of time. So if y'all want to know about their program, please come up afterwards. Okay, honey?
Okay.
Please come up afterwards, and he will be here to talk. But this is the work that's happening for our kids, right? I'm sorry. People say that we're not doing anything, or actually people say, I'm not doing anything, and you're right. At 2 a.m., I'm at home asleep, right? At 2 a.m., I'm in my bed just like everyone else should be. These folks are not. These folks are boots on the ground doing the work with our kids and working with them. I had the privilege to be invited to one of their circles, and I sat in the back. They didn't even know I had snuck into the room. And I sat in the back and I witnessed and watched the work that they're doing. And it's work that other people aren't doing. So what we should know and rest assured is that we've got great community investors that are investing into our, I'm gonna say what I wanna say, into our babies. The great community investors. So Building Kings, the entire group is right here. Thank you so much. I know we're gonna.
I'm actually going to call on Matt Schiebel from Fort Wayne Community Schools. The schools do quite a bit here already. Schools came up several times, and the mayor is always quick to point out the schools are not her job. She has nothing to do with the schools. So Matt's here to say a couple things. I saw some T-shirts from people in a couple of the programs that are run by the schools. So quick commercial from you.
Good evening, everybody. Matt Schiebel, my 38th year in the district. So I've been around for a while. I do want to give props to Building Kings, because I've seen a lot of things in 38 years. This is one of the best things, because what they do is not complicated, but it's consistent. And that's what I like about what they do. They're simply there for the kids, and that's what we need to do. It's not surprising that virtually every person on the stage has mentioned that it's a mental health issue. You know, Kids and guns are a bad mix because they don't think logically, right? And in an argument, if a kid has a gun, that's what they're going to go to. So that's a dangerous competition. But what we're really trying to do in the school corporation is attend to their mental illness and their mental state of mind by trying to do everything we can do to connect them to the school. Because we know if they feel safe at school, if they feel connected at school, they're going to go out into the community in a better mindset.
Absolutely.
So that's to us, that is critical. So when we won our referendum in 2023, we didn't spend a lot of money on equipment. We spent a lot of money on supports. So we made sure now that we have mental health therapists in every school. Every single school has a mental health therapist. We partnered with Alive Community Foundation to bring the peacemakers to all 5 of our schools that are trying to teach kids behaviors in school can also be replicated outside of school, to be peaceful and to look at ways to de-escalate. We've also hired 57 student advocates that are in every single school, 2 in each of the high schools, that help students. Sometimes what we know about students is they just need time to process. If you know anything about brain science, you know that students think with the emotional part of their brain, right? And as a former middle school principal, it's amazing to look at kids that were 8th graders and were so emotional and would sometimes just drive you crazy when they come back and they're 17 and they're a young adult. And why is that? Because they've moved from the emotional part of their brain and they're starting to mature and thinking with the frontal lobes, which is where we have reasoning and common sense. We've also done some things, obviously, with metal detectors and weapon detectors, and the success that we've had with that, based on the community who told us in 2022, your schools need to do more. When we had 10 guns in our schools in 2022, we piloted our weapon detectors at Southside and also all of the high school athletic events the next year. So we went from 10 guns to 4 guns, and this year we were able to get them at every school. We were down to 2. So it's a great start.
Matt, I'm going to have to cut you off as well. Because we're running tight on time. But you will be here for questions,
I will
right?
be here for questions.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Matt. Somebody said a while ago that there were not a lot of youth in this room,
I said that.
and that is true. But at the same time, we have lists, we have information from people. So, for example, Phil, that list of things that the student or that young people said to you, what you all hear from people. How do we get that information into the hands of decision makers, whether that is the mayor or whether that is a legislator down in Indianapolis or the people who are running organizations? How do we get that information and pass it on, do you think?
Well,
Mayor?
I'm pretty easy to contact. My email is mayor@cityoffortwayne.org. Those emails actually come to me. And there are multiple people that monitor that to make sure that I get those emails. So mayor@cityoffortwayne.org. My phone number I used to give out publicly, but they told me I can't do it anymore, 260-345-946. They told me that I can't do that anymore, but you can always email. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram,
And
I'm
she
on
in the hood.
TikTok. I respond to real questions. I don't respond to people accusing me of things, but I do respond to real questions that people will have. But the best way is to send it to the mayor@cityoffortwayne.org.
Roderick?
And I mean, the same way Phil and Building Kings has acquired the information that they have, the people that are communicating with these young people, we build this open line of communication through city government, and we pass the information around. Or we, like you said, I mean, we got city council people who are very open and willing to communicate and talk to everybody, so we use those outlets as well.
Yeah, and don't wait till too late, right? I mean, if you get information, pass it on. If you got an idea, pass it on right away. You don't have to wait till an event like this to do it.
Absolutely.
Foundation, you talked about the importance of being calm and giving yourself a moment. Matt just said that is true. When you're talking with people, young people particularly, and they come to you and they're like, hey, I got this problem, how do you talk with them and how do you turn that into information that might be useful to the mayor or the chief of police or somebody else?
Just listen to them. You know, sometimes a person just needs somebody to listen to them. And if I listen to you, I can see where you got a gap in your thinking is incorrect, and then I can redirect you into critical thinking and coping skills. We have to. I get so many letters, and now they're in their clear mind once they done got 100 years or 200 years. Now they're ready to talk and be open. So we use that information. Hey, young brother, you going through this same thing right here that he went through, so you got to learn from his mistakes. And I've always kept contact with the mayor before she was the mayor, so she gonna know, because I know she has compassion for her community before she was the mayor. So, and a lot of the stuff that's going on, like she said, she sleep. She ain't shoot nobody. Why y'all saying she responsible for that? She ain't do that. Got to stop that.
Chief, I know that there are a lot of ways for people to give information to the police, but some people, and we heard this in comments, they're concerned that you know they're not supposed to snitch. How do you get information from people so that they feel comfortable about giving it to you and yet still making it useful to the work that's got to be done?
So we have a lot of different ways. We have different relations with different people in the community. So one way that everybody knows about is Crime Stoppers. There's the P3 app and so forth. That's totally anonymous. We have a number of people that talk to our officers on the side that they're guaranteed the officers protect their identity and they share information with. It's really collaboration and trust. You know, I kind of use the example of a drink of water. I should be able to go anywhere in this community and walk up to a door on a day like today when it's 85, 90 degrees and knock on a door and say, can I have a glass of water? And if I can't do that, we've got a trust issue. And I expect that from all the officers. So it's about building trust within the community, and we come from all walks of life in our department, and people come to us in various ways. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a phone call. A lot of times, I'm out in public, I eat out a lot when I'm working. I'm in uniform most of the time. There are officers in the room will verify that. And a lot of people come up to me and talk to me in private while I'm out in public, and then I direct them to the right areas in the department. So there's not one simple way that people will get a hold of us or pass along information, but it's really about comfort level and listening and empathy. Once they understand that we're empathetic and listening to their concerns and also protecting their privacy, then that goes a long way in getting information passed along to us.
Shaquan Walker is here. Shaquan has the great joy of being the person who has to work with the two youth-oriented groups, the young adults and the younger adults, I like to call them, because I can never remember the exact name of the committees. But Mayor, this is a focus of yours. You have a person whose job is to reach out to people, talk about ways to work with the community, get information from the community. If you were to tell somebody what Shaquan's job is regarding youth, what would you say it is?
Shaquan's role is to make sure that our young people are exposed to everything that can happen inside of city government. We are just finished taking applications from all school systems to get kids involved into what we call our youth engagement, our MIAC, the Mayor's Youth Engagement Council. These group of young people have 4 or 5 initiatives that they are charged with throughout the entire year, and they work in collaborative groups to be able to complete those projects. One is mental health, one is homelessness, one is government functioning, and then there's 2 others that they do, and they do dynamic work. These are young people that are in high school, and so it had been at a selective group of schools. We broadened that to make sure that every school had an opportunity for their kids to be able to come. Shaquan is also responsible for making sure that my passion project of 18 to 26-year-olds get an opportunity to get involved. This is a new initiative that City Council approved for me to be able to launch off. And once we have the balance of our applicants in, they will also get an opportunity to be a part of government. Why? Because we do a great job of making sure that we have things for our young people to do. We do a great job of making sure that we have things for old people like me to do. We can play pickleball, right? Right? So we do a great job of making sure we do that. Where we saw the gap at was that age from 18 to 26. And so that is one of the charges that he's been with. And my desire is that they will have an opportunity to sit in meetings of all of the board meetings of what goes on in the government so that we have input from their voices on the things that we invest in, on the way that we are building our community, on the way that we are building our city. It is that important to me that we listen to our young people, that we've created these initiatives to move that forward.
I'm going to give everybody who is a panelist a chance to make a final comment, couple of minutes at most, less if possible. We'll start with, obviously, the chief, and the mayor gets to close it out because she's the mayor. So we're going to start with the chief. Closing comments.
No, I appreciate being invited to participate in this, and it's a great forum that we have here, great questions and so forth. One thing that we did not touch on was our stats that we said we were going to touch on real quick.
Yes.
So I just want to read off right now just to tell you where we're at for our first 6 months of the year compared to last year. So from January to June of 24 to January of June of 25, obviously our homicide rate is higher than we were at this time last year. Our robberies are down 5%. Our aggravated assaults are down 24%. Our burglaries are down 11.3%. Larcenies are down 7%. Auto theft, as many of you know, we had a huge problem with the Hyundais and Kias nationwide, and also here. That's down 39.
Don't leave, you don't want to miss what I'm going to say.
That's down 39%. Our overall Part 1 crimes, which are these crimes, are down 12.4%. Our violent crimes overall are down 15.24%, and our property crimes are down 11.98%. So that's a testament to what our officers are doing and what the community is doing and so forth, and it's something that shouldn't be overlooked, that we're in double digits right now for the first 6 months of the year, that our crime is down overall.
Roderick.
I would just say that I think that this forum went very well. I think that some of the information that was shared was really important. But I also think that it leads to what everybody's been saying since we've been having this conversation. And it leads to finding ways to work together more, finding ways to become more focused towards meeting the needs of this. Because I think I talked to a detective, well, I know I talked to a detective, and I want to say that he gave me a number as far as this violence is concerned with these young people. And I think he said that if you had to put a number on it, it was somewhere around 150 kids. That no way reflects the amount of the number of children that we have in our city. And so when I tell people that I believe that we can bring this violence, this juvenile-related violence, to zero, I really, really believe that, and I think it's just going to be a collaborative effort.
First of all, I want to give everybody in this room a hand just for being here, because it shows one thing. Number one, you have compassion, whether you had a child that was involved in a crime or whatever, that you have compassion. So just keep compassion in our hearts, and we're going to get the job done. Each one teach one.
That's it. That's it, bro.
Mayor?
Close the show.
So I want to thank you all for being here with us. I want to thank the panelists up here for being open, transparent, and showing your heart for the community, and thank the guests on the front row for being here and showing your heart for the community. As you can see, work is being done. As you can see, work is being done. We are not throwing the community away. But let's be honest. It takes a village to raise a community. And so if you have an opportunity to pour into a young child, I would ask you that you take that opportunity. So here's the deal. My role is different than your role. I'm the mayor of the city. I'm in charge of making sure that public safety is for everyone, no matter the color of their skin or their orientation. I'm responsible for every person. I'm also responsible for making sure that we spend our money properly and wisely, because I have to be in control of the budget. And so those realities put barriers around what I would want to do, because I'm a giver. If I could, I'd give you all money, to be able, but I can't do it. I can't do it. And that's just the reality. But what we can do is we each can look at our role and each look at how we can pour into a young child and each take that role and take it seriously to move it forward. You all, the responsibility is not just mine. And so we've said it earlier, we will say it again. Fort Wayne is a safe place to live. I get beat up on social media because they say, well, Mayor said it was safe. Here's the thing. Most of the activity that you see are amongst people who know each other. They're in relationship with each other, right? And so if you're not in relationship with those individuals, you don't have to worry as much as the other person would have to. Our goal for the city of Fort Wayne is to be a family-friendly community that is a fun place to be and a safe place to be. And so you've heard me say that over and over and over again, because that's what I'm working on. I am working on making sure that every individual in Fort Wayne gets an opportunity to be seen. I'm working on making sure that whether you travel from DuPont to Tillman Road, that the roads are the same no matter which way they go, and that the streets and sidewalks are the same.
You got a lot of work there.
We're working on that. Those are things, because I believe that no portion of our city is more important than the other portion of our city. And I have a phenomenal team of individuals that are working to make that vision come to life. And we are here for you. And I tell my friends all the time, don't stand this close to the water fountain and be dry. Right? What does that mean? You have an opportunity to reach out. I've showed you all the means of communications. Now, no, I'm just one person, so I can't answer you all right now, right? If you call me, but I will try. I will do my best to get back to you. But this is going to take all of us. It is going to take everyone in the community to be able to address the concerns, whether you talk to the young men that are sitting at the front of the stage or the officers or these young men on the stage or chief. We have to work together. I promise you, I do not want to see the crime that is happening in our community. I have to police. We've got to hold people accountable. Kudos to our team for having a 96% turnover rate. I've said it before, I don't know why anybody chooses to commit a crime in the city of Fort Wayne, because we are finding people and we're holding people accountable. At the same time, I want you to know, as your mayor, I've heard your concerns, and I hope that this forum has given you an opportunity to hear that I hear you. And while we can't all sit at the table and have a cup of coffee, I do want you to know that I care about how you feel and I care about our community. And we'll do everything we can to keep working toward reducing the violence in our community. Thank you so much for being here.